what's up, everybody? Yeah, the GM got bored, so session's canceled. That's it. He's just bored.
Damn, just the GM, not even the players got bored. Just GM's like,
yeah, he's just is like, I got nothing, bro. I'm out. I'm a tap.
Like, guys, where's Dave? And he's like, fucking just chilling on the beach somewhere.
Yeah, Dave moved. He got so bored, he moved to a different state.
Damn, how fucked would that be? Your DM moves, doesn't tell you guys.
Just fucks off.
Hey guys, campaign's done. Fucking, just like nothing.
Just disappears into
Oh
the
my
ether.
god. So funny.
Dave's a dick. I'm back. I have returned. Josh
You're
has
back
returned.
from the warp. Yes.
Yeah.
The fire rises.
What?
I don't know. We started like dipping in the Bane voice, and that was like the first thing that came to my head.
Just being mad here because Isaiah's a bitch.
He wanted to take a turn in the warp. It's been a while since he's got
it's true.
got his feet wet.
It's true. It's true. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the hell we're gonna title this. So normally I'd be like, as you can tell by the titling, I don't know what we're gonna call this. So maybe you can't tell. Maybe I came up with a really good idea though, and you can't tell where I'm going with this. But maybe I didn't. I don't know. Only future Josh knows. Present Josh has got nothing for you.
Insert future Josh here. The title is actually "Engage These Nuts."
No.
Damn it.
No, I don't think I will. Yeah. So, all right. I don't know how to, like, I know what I said in Discord, but like, I don't know actually if I'm phrasing this in a way that is what let's try that. Let's try English again. I don't know how to work this sentence in a way that feels satisfying, but you know what? As we often do, we're just gonna go with it because whatever. It's fine. We're gonna talk about keeping the game interesting, exciting.
Yeah. Can I
enticing?
interject? Yeah. Can I interject with keeping player engagement also? That could be. This is part of it. Like the whole.
Yes, I would say
interest.
keeping players engaged is the symptom of the thing if you do it correctly. It's kind of what I'm getting at because. Yeah. You know, all right, we got to start by defining things a little bit. Also, I kind of this is the kind of thing that I think that has a lot of granularity to it, in that you can slide the scale up and down quite a lot, right? Because you could be talking about moment to moment engagement, you could be talking about campaign long engagement, just a single session, a whole adventure, a certain period of time, like a particular dungeon or whatever. Like there's lots of
we can start
degrees.
Small. Yeah, if you want, we can start small and then go from like, you know, a session to an adventure to a campaign.
Honestly, I wasn't planning on focusing on any particular size so much as just addressing the fact that it can apply at many different sizes, or you can apply tricks at many different sizes. That sounded a little weird. Apply tricks at many different sizes, kids.
Now I gotta ask: was this conversation brought on because of your current game coming to an end soon? Or you're trying to keep the engagement, the excitement up? And
yes,
is it from your side? You feel like something's up, or is the player side they've mentioned something like?
Nobody's mentioned anything. I just personally don't. So there is. So where the campaign's currently at, my players are doing a sort of mini game that I came up with a whole mini game system for this last leg of my campaign to sort of represent some broader actions. So the players are marching through what's called the Withered Lands in my game, which is the bad no-no apocalypse zone.
Yeah,
and they're
Dark
marching
Forest or whatever. Yeah.
up to kind of, yeah. It's literally the blasted out remains of where the rest of the city used to be. Essentially, they live in a very, very tiny portion of the city, but the city used to cover the entire island. Like, it used to be like a monolithic cyberpunkian megacity, but now they live in just a little tiny section of it. So the Woodlands is all of what used to be city.
Okay.
After apocalyptic events.
Yeah.
So they're marching through this area to get to the top of Mount Olympus to return back to where the entire campaign started so they could go punch the bad guys in the mouth. To get, because they have to get to the top of the mountain to fix this machine. This machine will then teleport them back to the place where the whole campaign started, which is this magical prison. Magical prison, go punch bad guy in the mouth. So I devised this whole mini system because the players are escorting a huge caravan of people, some who are combatants and some who are workers that are going to work on the big project once they get to the top of the mountain. Well, actually, they're at the top of the mountain at this point. They're work on this big project because, you know, they're building a large structure, so you need a bunch of people. So I devised this whole little mini game system to represent this idea of like they're marching over a long period. You know, it's literally been 3 weeks to get to and up the mountain, and then it's going to take however long it takes them to finish the project to fix the bridge, because it's literally just called the bridge.
Okay.
So this whole, it involves them making various checks throughout the day, but not the individual players. The caravan itself is making checks, and the players are assisting the situation. So they make a forage first they can do a scouting check to try and help out any other check throughout the day. Then they make a foraging / quartermastering check to make sure like food and everything is good. Then they make what's the other one? A defending check to basically protect themselves, because the entire time they're marching, because they're literally marching towards the enemy, so the enemy is trying to retaliate back. And then at the end of the day, if there was any medical stuff that gets done, that resolves last. Which is to say, like, people got hurt and somebody needs to blah, blah. So, I like, for the most part, the thing I did, but it got too monotonous. It got for my I mean, I don't know, maybe the players don't feel the same. Maybe they find it kind of interesting, because it's been the last 3 sessions we've been doing this, I think, and it's been very mechanical. Like, there's been a little bit of role-playing stuff here and there. There's been little bits of little story moments, but for the most part, it's been a very mechanical. It's almost like they're playing a board game right now. They're like not really playing D&D so much right now. So, you know, they may, maybe it's been 4 sessions they've been doing it. They may find it interesting because it's just tonally very different to be in like board game mode. I don't know. But for me personally, on my side, I looked at it and went, yeah, all right, I made this a little too monotonous, and it's sort of, it got too board gamey, and it feels, it didn't quite have the vibe, the emotional impact, the hit I wanted. Like, the system I came up with is working well, and all the pieces are interweaving quite well, but it feels like, you know, we're all sitting down playing Settlers of Catan or some shit, you know what I mean?
Right. It sounds like, because I've heard the same, like, traversing, like, overland mass, like, at least just from the few 5e things I know about. It sounds like a combination of that, of like traveling, kind of like what they did with Tomb of Annihilation, where it's like a hex crawl. Well, rather being a hex crawl, it's going from like, you guys are basically going in a straight line, I'm assuming, going to the bridge.
Sort of. They're traveling. I mean, here's the thing. But then there's no map.
Ghost of Salt Marsh type of. Okay, so it's all just.
There's no map. There's no specific thing. I'm just sort of narrate them going, and they're essentially making a series of checks each day to see how things go. So it's not travel in the standard D&D sense.
Right.
They're not keeping track of food for themselves. They're not monitoring anything for themselves or resources anyway for themselves. It's all about the caravan on an en masse scale. And it's sort of, I just assume and hand wave, like, if the caravan's good, you guys as players are good. So they are not really doing anything. They're not doing much as their characters individually, unless they get attacked and then a fight starts. And a fight starts, they play as their characters, unless if their characters were doing something for the day, then they have to play as a different NPC sheet. So, like, for example, if Brett's character is scouting for the day and then a fight breaks out in that same day, he does not get to play his normal character. He has to pick from one of the NPC sidekicks I made for them and play as one of them. And the idea there is because they have to make a decision between helping defend and helping do other shit, because the NPC sidekicks are obviously not as strong as they are. So if the main character is doing something else and they get attacked, that makes the fight harder because they don't have their big guns.
I feel, because I always have, I think I mentioned this to you a while ago too, like the whole like 2-player, like different character sheets things. They're at the end game. Why not have them just?
Because they're not at the end game. But also because this is part of the challenge. Because I wanted them to have to make a choice. Because if they could just choose, because if they could just do any of the other actions and then also use their characters to defend from attacks, it would be too easy because their characters are so strong that I would have to throw I'd have to throw boss fights at them over and over again to threaten their characters or to threaten the caravan in any way. So by forcing them to have to use weaker characters, they have to make a deliberate choice. Like, they have to decide, okay, am I using my character or am I going to use this other character? Because there's a check each day to see if there's a fight. So I could use basically the whole point of this entire thing is they're making choices. They're making like very deliberate choices the entire time. So they can be like, all right, I can go do scouting, which will potentially help the other checks. And there might not be a fight for the day, but if there is a fight for the day, I'm not going to be available. So I'm going to have to use a different character. That may make the fight harder. Right. So it's like this. It's the idea is I wanted them to have to make tricky choices the whole time while they're going.
Okay.
But again, like I said, it got very, like, it is working. They are making
board gamey to mechanical. Yeah,
like they are making those choices. They are sort of sweating, if you will. But yeah, it got really monotonous. And so I was thinking about, I was like, what is it like? How do you fix this teetering point? What is the thing? Because doing anything in a tabletop game for an extended period of time, that is the way you make challenge for the players, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, how do you challenge a character? You have to force them to engage with the mechanics over and over and over again, because eventually they're going to fail, right? Like, at its most basic level, you have to force mechanical engagement over and over and over so that the players will fail. That's how you challenge. That's how you bring challenge to the game itself, right? If every D&D character only had to make one attack roll for every combat, there would barely be any challenge because they're much less likely to fail. But because you make so many attack rolls in a combat, you're much more likely to fail once in a while, right? So in order to do that, you have to extend the time frame out. If you want something to feel like it's beating up the players, if beating up the characters, ergo by extension beating up the players, to feel like it's giving them a little bit of stress, like they're being challenged and stuff, you have to make them do something over and over to a certain degree. That's the only way you're going to get that. You can't ignore the mechanics, really. I mean, you can give them you can give them fictional, like, choices to make, like, oh, do we side with this faction or that faction, right? You could do that kind of stuff. But from a mechanical challenge standpoint, you have to make them engage the mechanics over and over to try and force a challenge. So, the problem is, obviously...
So with the Because the whole, like, again, the entrance. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
Well, the problem is that obviously that could get boring after a while because games are gonna get monotonous at a certain point. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, it's just it's just gonna be that way. So then the question came to me. It's like, all right, if I were to do this again, how would I go about this? Making it still a challenge, but making it feel a little more interesting. Maybe a little more, maybe a little more tense, or if not tense, just like get a little bit more of that engagement. And then I thought about, so obviously the most hype time of any RPG, any new campaign, is the beginning when it's a new campaign, right? Because it's like, oh man, we're starting a new campaign. It's crazy. It's gonna be so, and everybody's always really hyped at the beginning. And I was like, all right, why is everybody always really hyped at the beginning of a new campaign? It's like, because it's a change, like something has changed, which is to say we went from not playing a game to playing a game. And there's all these infinite possibilities laid out before me, right? Like nothing is set in stone. Nothing has hit the table. There's an infinite number of universes I could create. 14 million and 30, so whatever the fuck Doctor Strange said.
Sure.
And you know what I'm talking about. You're not?
I know very little of Doctor Strange. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
In the movie?
I mixed up Doctor Strange and Doctor Who in my mind. Holy shit, my brain just went to two different... I mixed Doctor Strange and Doctor Who for no fucking reason.
No,
Holy
not
shit.
Doctor Who. I'm talking about with Doctor Strange said I saw 14 million, however many universes, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't remember what the number was, but that...
Yeah.
What? Were we gonna, You said,
No, keep going. I'll
Okay.
my spiel at the end.
I smushed... My brain wriggles. I gave the brain. I took the brain out of the skull and gave it a little massage and felt those wrigglies, And so what I realized, or not realized, I sort of knew this, but it's one of those things that you always have to keep reiterating to yourself, really. But the kind of phrase I came up with was: you need events to be quick, volatile, and like ever changing. That was sort of the phrase that came to mind. Quick, volatile, and ever changing. And what I mean, to tease that out, quick is self-explanatory, but obviously the degree, the speed of the said quickness, right? The speed at which you do things, that scale can change based on the scenario, right? So doing something quickly within a session is not the same as doing something quote unquote quickly over the course of a campaign, right? That scale can shift up and down dramatically. So just because I say quick doesn't mean I'm saying don't spend any time on anything. And then volatile. Now, technically, so definition of there's two definitions, but for our purposes, we're dealing with the second one. Liable to change rapidly and unpredictably, especially for the worse. I'm slightly ignoring that for the worse part and more focusing on the rapidly and unpredictably. Which is to say, you want your game to be like, shit's happening, shit's changing around, and like, oh fuck, I didn't see that coming, or like, oh, that's interesting. Like, you gotta kind of keep people on their toes, as it were. And then obviously, ever changing, that's a pretty self-explanatory portion of it. You want to constantly be introducing something slightly new, and new doesn't have to mean like entirely like whole fuck brand new thing, but like there needs to be that feeling of freshness. And this is where I'm going to start making bedroom analogies. So get ready.
Okay.
But because did you not get where I was going with that?
No, I do. I'm just like
I'm joking, but
yeah.
I'm half joking. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen, the sex analogies work really good in this scenario.
Surprisingly for your tabletop Yeah.
They do. Listen, tabletop is about a complicated, interconnected relationship between several people. The parallels are there. I'm just saying. Where you're also emotionally vulnerable. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Sure.
What were you gonna at me before?
So the only concern I have, and this is something I remember a while ago, I think when the players were doing the same kind of deal, not the same deal, but like when they were playing secondary characters and they were like, we want to go back to our main characters, especially if you guys are like level 20, I feel like me as a player, I would kind of be like, I don't want to play the NPCs in the camp. I want to do my guy. I've worked all this time to get him to level 20. Let me play my guy. But I don't know. Like that's me. Because I feel like I get the.
I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, Chief. That is really not the important part here. Not really what I'm talking about.
But the challenge and everything. I thought that was.
Them playing their characters or not though is just a small microcosm of the greater thing I'm talking about though. Like that's not really relevant right now. They are getting to play their characters. It's not like they aren't.
Yeah, no,
it's a choice. They're choosing.
Right. Well, I guess what I meant is I would rather, like, if I was a player, I would rather be challenging my character rather than doing being a sidekick or being an NPC thing, and like having to protect the caravan with my guy.
Well,
yeah,
challenging player characters much easier said than done, as you're well aware.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, if I was a player, yeah.
But again,
sorry, no, what were you gonna say?
This is not relevant, really, right now. Doesn't really matter because it has nothing to do with me talking about keeping engagement.
Well, that's interest. One of the things that is kind of what I was gonna say is part of the engagement, where it's like, I feel like there might be some sort of disconnect.
I really don't think that's.
It's not that okay.
I don't think that's really an issue
I'm not
right
in
now.
The game, but that's but like one of the other things I guess with that, where it's like, because you're having to make these checks, you're saying it's getting too board gamey. One of the few things maybe like it sounds like you're already kind of like you're already mixing it up. You're doing a rotation shit of like they're traveling, so you already have a little bit of exploration. I don't know if they're like running into shit or seeing settlements or whatever the hell, like they're exploring this, the scary.
I mean, there's not
land.
much to see out there at the moment, but no, not really. We're also almost done, so like, don't focus too much on that. I'm just using the particular events of my campaign as an example. But
right. No, I'm just giving. I'm just throwing ideas. Like that's what I'm, Just
right, but don't focus on that. Think about it in a much broader, just general game sense.
Well, I am. That's what I'm going with. Where it's like one of the big things for keeping things interesting, player engagement, is that rotation. And I know you don't like the whole like the 3-pillar thing.
Well, yeah, that's where where change comes in. That's what changing.
Well, that's where I was going to. Where it's like, all right, so let's say like you have one session where there was a lot of combat, like literally like 30, 3 out of 4 hours was combat. So it's like, all right, maybe next session I'll do a little more role play and exploration. Or let's say we're playing, Tomb of Annihilation and we did nothing but travel and combat and shit. Maybe I'll change one of the encounters in the next fucking like hexagon they find, and I'll have like a big like role play encounter for them. It's like, it's always like mixing it up session by session, seeing what worked in the last time. Almost like mad scientists, DMs have to like see what is working session by session. And if it's like one formula is not working, it's like, all right, well, I'll do this formula this time.
Well, yes, that's kind of what I'm saying. That's kind of where I was starting, which is to say the quick and volatile, right? That you don't want to stick on any one thing for too long, because no matter how much you love a thing, doing it for too long is, gonna get boring eventually.
Yeah.
And since I made the joke, if you bang for too many hours straight, eventually you're going to want to stop and get some water or something.
Yeah, I need my Gatorade.
Need some Gatorade. You might want to get some food. You know, like eventually you can only fuck for so long. Might need some cream on you, something. Yeah. Look, you know, like it doesn't matter how much you like a thing. Eventually you have to change things up. So yes, so what I was going to say is what I probably would do. So using this as an example, again, I don't necessarily want to focus on it because it's almost done in my campaign anyway. So it's not really worth focusing on, but to use an example, if I were to redo this particular section again, I'd make it shorter. I think it went on too long.
That's the other thing I was going to say.
Well, so the problem was I had no way to gauge. I didn't have the ability. See, this is the thing, right? I invented a game with no playtesting, right? Like I didn't have the ability to playtest this because, you know, I only had my players. So I had no way to gauge how long things were going to take or exactly how the math was going to shake down. So I would try and tighten it down more if I were to do this again. The volatile part, I think I would plan out essentially like big events that would shift up the mechanics of the thing as it went on. Because, like, for example, so they were traveling for 3 weeks. If at the end of every week I had something happen that shifted the way the, like, minigame worked, that's and, like, a sort of unexpected, like, okay, now we're going to do it this way, right, without telling the players. And then they're like, oh, fuck, okay, now we have to deal with this new problem. And then...
You could also treat it like downtime if you broke it up into 1 week chunks.
Right, well, that's what I mean. Like, I would have some sort of events that would coincide, and then, you know, keeping things changing all the time. I think I would probably try to just plan some more little interactions or stuff within the travel. Although I'll admit, I did think about that particular thing, like having, you know, specific NPCs do certain things or talk to them about stuff or whatever. I did have some of that planned, but we're getting in the latter half of things and it's real hard for me to push through the prep sometimes. So like, I just didn't, the ideas were not coming.
I mean, you could always,
but, you know, whatever
shit. And then just like one of the things, and this is another like point we can talk about later for like player engagement. You always just ask the players and just be like, you know, at the end of one of these travel days, be like, all right, guys, is there anything you want to do before we like go to the next day? Is anyone you want to talk to or you want to see about? And if you throw the idea out there, the players will take it and run with it, and they'll, you know, most of the time.
So two problems with that.
Try and do that.
Two problems with that in this particular scenario. Again, if I were to do this again, I would try to do that more. Two problems with this particular scenario is, one is my players are like, the objective is within sight, so they're like on target, ready to murder. So I don't know if they would have jumped at it so much because I think I would have been like, you guys want to talk to them? They probably would have said no because they're so like, they're very like they're very goal driven right now. They can see the end is nigh, like it's right in front of them. So they're really like no bullshitting right now.
Okay.
And the other thing is, because I already felt like things were taking too long, that was going to extend it out more. And I was like, I don't want to do that right now. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, if I were tackling it a different way again, I probably would try and think about prompting them to do some other stuff sort of in between and break it up, because it's tricky. It's tricky when you come up with entire like when you come up with an entire little mini game or system within your game and stuff, because again, you don't have any way to play test, and you're doing this on the fly, and you're doing it in your spare time, and like you don't know if it's going to interact with the game the way there's so many things. I know the answer already, but I figured I have to ask this just for the audience and for my own. Like, have you looked up anything like kind of on what you were trying to do, like see if someone out there has done? Okay, yeah. I assumed, but I just wanted to throw that because like there are a lot of like those traveling kind of challenging mechanics. Yeah.
That a lot of like, actually, I talked to you very briefly on this, but like I've been trying to read more of the Lord of the Rings 1D, no 1D&D, jeez. The Lord of the Rings role-playing game for 5e. Holy crap. And their travel mechanic in there and how they like set it up as like there are certain roles everybody has. There's only really 4 roles, but like...
Well, I basically did do that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Choose the roles.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You have players choose the roles, and everyone has their goals, but rather than it being like... Because you said the players have to choose between helping the settlement or defending it, right?
They can choose to do scouting, foraging, defending, or medical. Obviously, if nobody's hurt, they don't need medical, so it's just the other 3. And then now that they've gotten to the top of the mountain, they also added the option to build in there. So now they have 5 choices.
Okay, yeah.
Look, I didn't look up any other stuff because I had such a specific vision on how I wanted to do and what I wanted to execute on, and like such a very specific plan that I was like, there's no way in hell someone's going to get me exactly where I need to be. And 2, I also just kind of wanted to come up with it on my own because I had enough of an idea. Like I had enough ideas going on. I had enough of a plan that I just rather do it myself as like a little bit of a challenge and just for funsies. And I did pull from other sources. I just pulled from other sources in my general knowledge of other games I've played, which is to say I've pulled from video games and I pulled ideas from tabletop. Like I did pull from other places. I didn't like specifically steal directly, but I pulled from my knowledge about other shit anyway. So like I kind of was doing that already. I mean, again, my famous quote, steal from everything. It's all good. Well, I wasn't...
You're not making money off this shit.
I wasn't stealing from anything in particular. I was just using my general game design knowledge and applying it because I just knew what I was trying to do. I had a plan. And it also came down to I wanted all of the kind of like Baldur's Gate 3 where I wanted all of the NPCs the players had like met and befriended or whatever to be there and be present and relevant and stuff. So I had to come up with a way for them to matter. But I knew I didn't want to do some sort of way over the top mass combat nonsense type thing, and I wasn't going to do what they did in Baldur's Gate 3 where it's like, just summon all your allies. I'm like, that's a fucking nightmare in the tabletop. It's cool for a video game. I'm not doing that in the tabletop. That's a nightmare fuel. So I represented them via, math and using the numbers and the checks. And so like, all of the people who are combatants that they've collected, when they make a defend check, they roll a d20 plus the power level of the current like warriors who are helping fight. So I use math to represent it.
I say, have you looked at, I know you haven't, but like you should look at the simplified, I think it's either the Kingdoms and Warfare rules. Because that might be like, you don't have to exactly do that game, but you can take some inspiration from that, and that might help you. I mean again, if you were doing this again,
yeah, I mean, too late now, but also, it's not a warfare scenario either. It's like a large majority. What I was having the players do is basically, because they're level 20 and it's so hard to challenge them, I was like, all right, well then, instead of challenging the players, threaten stuff around them, So the challenge is that they have to defend a bunch of innocent civilians who are not as invincible as they am. Yeah. So, they have to protect, basically, right? Like that was a big crux of it. It's not like this was like a mass warfare situation at all.
Okay.
I had another thing, and now I do not.
Oof.
Wait,
hey, I'll come back.
Matt, do something.
Hey Josh, want to tell the people what they can do?
Oh god damn!
We forgot to do in the beginning of the episode.
Well, if you got this far, you better hit fucking subscribe or follow on whatever you're listening on. God damn.
I will also apologize because both episodes you were gone for. Me and Isaiah royally.
Oh, I know.
Fucked up.
I'm aware. I heard. I always hear.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell me.
But oh, what was one of the other things actually? So for me, I know one thing. Recently, I told you guys I started doing this. I did this last year, and now I just did a secondary one where I send out surveys to my players, and they're like 5-question surveys, like using Google, I think like a Google Doc or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And then I just ask them, basic shit like, are you satisfied with the game? What do you like about the game? What do you not like about the game? Any I think getting player feedback, getting their kind of like, they'll tell you what they want to do, and they might even be able to like drive sessions just from asking the players what they want. Granted, like if a player's like, I want a quest so that next session I have a Vorpal sword. Then you can do what the Pokemon Company does and ignore that player. Whenever someone's like, just make a game only with the legendaries and the mythic Pokemon. And they're like, they pat that child on the head. They're like, okay, idiot. But like, if you just like ask your players like, hey, what do you want to do? And some guy's like, well, I really want to like learn more about like, I don't know, like my Fey ancestry or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, I can come up with something with that. Or if, again, you do one of these surveys or you ask always ask for player feedback. That's one of the things, like at the end of the session, sometimes I'll be like, everybody have fun, everything was good. If I feel like something is off, I will be the first person to say it in my game. And then being the GM, I feel like that might help like kind of ease the tension because maybe players don't want to like rock the boat. Like if I'm the DM, I'm like, hey guys, I don't know, I felt something was off that game, everything good, something we didn't like. Then I feel like more players will be open to kind of, giving you some sort of feedback and be like, yeah, I wasn't happy with the combat. I think that boss, I don't know, that was such a slog, and it's like, yeah, I should have, I could work on that.
Matt,
that's at least for me. There's
one problem with all that you just suggested.
Yeah.
That assumes I give a fuck about any of their opinions. I don't give a shit about making it interesting for them. I want to keep things interesting for myself.
That's not. What? Yeah, that's not good there, bud.
Nah. Slaves to my enjoyment. Dance, monkeys, dance.
It sounds like one of those fucking horror stories on Reddit.
Yeah, I mean, asking for feedback, it's all well and good, but I'm more focusing on what do you need to do as a GM? What actionable thing do you need to do as a GM? Like, you have identified that the game is getting monotonous. What are you going to apply to
Well, that is one of them. That's what I'm saying.
That's an idea generator, but what do you like?
Well, then you implement what the players say. That's
right, but the implementing.
It's not that just...
The implementing is more the thing I'm talking about. Like,
well, that's part of it. That's what I'm saying. It's all like this. A whole topic is all like it's all encompassing.
Yeah, but you could say get player feedback about literally everything. That's why I don't like bringing it up too much because it just applies to everything ever.
Well, yeah, if you don't do anything with it, but if you
no, what I mean is like what I'm saying is like the idea of talk to your players. If we use talk to your players as the answer to a problem, that's all we're going to say ever because talk to your players can just solve every problem.
So there's a difference between just talking to your players and asking players to give constructive feedback.
No, I know, Matt.
On the game. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying
actual. Yeah,
you're missing what I mean. I'm not saying that that's bad or that you're wrong or anything. I'm just saying I don't like bringing that up all the time because it's always the answer. So we don't need to bring it up every time because it's always the answer.
No, we do because there are people who don't have common sense who don't fucking think.
We're not talking to those. I don't give a shit. If they don't have common sense, they can lick my ball.
No, because that's why I'm going to keep bringing it up because there's a lot of people in this hobby who do not have common sense. So I'm going to keep saying this.
But it's just... It can be applied to... it's just... I don't want to use it all the time as an answer because it's literally an always answer.
Unfortunate, because I'm going to bring it up every single time.
It'd be the equivalent of like, man, my stomach's kind of bothering me. Well, did you drink water? That's always like the first question. It's the same kind of thing as did you drink water? Like, okay, yes, we know that already. Next question. So not skipping over, but the players have given you the feedback. The implementing is more what I'm focusing on. Like, assume we're doing that all the time anyway. Or mostly. Assume me and you are doing it. Let's start with that.
Okay, so one of the other things I'll bring up, this is from Mike Shea, Mr. Sly Flourish, from one of his books. And one of the big things he actually talks about, and actually two things, and I mentioned it before, was like, if you're thinking like, oh, maybe last session wasn't really interesting and exciting, the start in media res, start off with some action, maybe some combat, make something exciting happen on the first moment of the session. That way it gets players going, oh shit, stuff's happening.
I mean, yeah, that would fall under brain. That would fall into volatile, I would say.
Yeah. But like another thing he ends up mentioning is kind of clarifying characters' existing choices. And this is talk to your players, but again, like the feedback thing, this is with a specific goal, not just like talking. It's like you might want to reiterate like, a long-term like quest that kind of like fell on the wayside, like Skyrim. You have like 30 side quests, and then all of a sudden one NPC's like, hey bro, fucking Alduin's still like out here. What are you doing? It's like, oh yeah. That's the GM being like, yo, deal with this fucking dragon for the love of Christ. Or maybe, maybe
I guess I don't that doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if that in and of itself isn't necessarily useful, but you could turn it into something to help with the monotony potentially. Like just bringing up like, saying, maybe you forgot about this quest may or may not do anything on its own.
It's bringing up their choices. It's like, remember, telling the players like they can drive the session. It's up to them. You can, again, D&D tabletop, like use your imagination. You can do anything. And it's like, hey, remember all these things that you guys have the option to do. Would you like to do any of them? And if they say no, then it's like, okay, well, you tried. But if it's like, there's that fucking magic sword in that dungeon we forgot about that, fucking Jimbo Bimbo, the magician goblin told us about. We should probably go get that. It could probably help us fight this goddamn Alduin guy.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna sound bad. I'm sort of ignoring the player's opinion in this thought experiment.
Shake my goddamn head.
No, what I mean is, I'm more trying to think about what do I need to execute on when I'm running to get to sort of spice things up again. Like, what do I need? Like. Like,
I mean, for you, I would say,
I don't know, because I was about to have a great analogy.
Okay, all right, all right, go.
It was gonna be another sex one. I'm joking.
Okay, Jesus Christ.
Well, like, it's like, like, yeah. I mean, you could ask your wife why things have gotten really dull, but you could also just kind of surprise her and be like, "What if I do this?" and then slide it and boom. You know what I'm saying?
And it's like, oh, have you been watching porn again? Is that why you were wearing rollerblades? And you're like, how'd you know?
Hell yeah, baby. I love the rollerblade maneuver.
But no, I think, and we mentioned this earlier, I think the mixing shit up, like during sessions, not only just like swapping between the combat, the role play, the exploration shit, but also just adding like some new stuff. Like you did a whole like new mechanic, board game type deal. Maybe throw in some more like shit that you haven't done in the game yet, like more puzzles or kind of different other types of challenges, like obstacle courses or something that like your players can go through for fun. And this is the other thing. I know like me and Isaiah, we like there's a difference, and like we had the discussion last time on like challenging players, and he doesn't like it. Yes, you play like as GMs, we want to challenge players, but like I'm not sitting here being like, don't make it a fun challenge. Make it fun. It's a game. We're all playing a game. It's not like I'm sitting here like, no, it must be brutal and grueling and they have to hate it. And it's like, no. Challenge doesn't mean not fun. It's a fucking game. We make these fun. At least we try to. I try to.
We try to. Well, yes. We
try. We try. We don't succeed all the time, but like, the goal is always to make a fun challenge.
The whole thing
both the players and the DM like.
The whole thing I'm getting at here is the fun is failing, right? So,
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe mix it up, or, like I know you said it's coming to an end. If I was you, like right now, and you're sitting there like, I don't think I'm not getting excited about this board game mechanic anymore. I think the players might not be as interested as well. I would cut it short. Like next session, either they get to the area, they like, say, oh no, or maybe just have an NPC be like, oh, I found a shortcut or whatever. And then you can have something where it cuts the time in half. They get to the place either by the end of that session or by the start of the next session, but they have to go through something like, I don't know, fucking Omega Behir or some shit, some nonsense. And the Behir wants to like go after the caravan.
I'm gonna keep it Unreal Engine 5 with you, Chief.
Yeah.
That's all well and good, but they're so close to done anyway. It kind of doesn't matter.
Oh, so like they're going to get their next session then, or the beginning of next session.
Probably, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because you're saying probably.
Almost.
So I'm saying this is
very likely. Very likely, yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I would throw in some sort of like fight, like as a last.
No, they're doing a lot of fighting already. They don't want more fighting.
Oh, they don't. Okay.
I don't think so. No, they've been doing a lot of fighting. Like they've already had several rather challenging fights.
Okay.
I think at this point they just want to hit their objective. Like my game I sort of realized this late, and we're sort of like too late in the stage. I'm kind of at a point where I already know what I'm gonna do. They're gonna do this. You get to the final dungeon. We're gonna do the wrap up. Like I'm in like the 5-session range of being done.
Okay.
Like
I would say
I'm so close to the end that I'm not really trying to do anything fancy right now. So anything I'm talking about is just sort of hypothetical future stuff.
Right. I would say, just because Isaiah will get this. Game of Thrones, one of the last,
Isaiah will get this. Josh will not. So now I'm going to explain.
Well, I'm going to explain it so you will fucking understand.
I just using Game of Thrones, odd choice, but all right.
So I know last season, very mixed. One of the earlier episodes was basically an entire interactive roleplay session. It was all the cast. The ice zombies are coming. They're gonna fucking storm their castle in the next session, and all your favorite characters who somehow survived 8 seasons of nonsense are most likely going to die at. And basically you had a lot of characters who normally never interact with each other or never see each other, or this is the first time they're meeting, talk, and they have role play, and they have these funny dialogues with each other. So I would say for you as like, once they get to the bridge, you're saying they're doing a lot of combat. Again, there seems that very, little exploration, if any. I would say like once they get to whatever next session, have just an entire session of them having one like last goodbye with a bunch of NPCs. You can even do like the fucking Baldur's Gate party spoilers, thing at the end. It doesn't have to be a party, but like have it where they're reminiscing with the NPCs about all their adventures, and they're talking with people, and other NPCs who normally don't interact with each other are interacting with each other, and you can have the characters interact with them, or at least walk by as they're interacting, set up a whole big elaborate thing. That way it breaks up the monotony, and it's something different. It's mixing it up, which is, again, that's the biggest thing, where like it's mixing up, and it's going to be, you're saying your players are so goal oriented. I don't know. I feel like Isaiah and Brett and possibly Sam, I don't know too much about Ant playstyle wise, but I feel like he would be pretty chill with like a role play episode.
Well, I mean, that's going to be honestly, everything you just said is going to be entirely up to them. So like, I'm not going to dictate. Once the project is completed, they can enter the final dungeon whenever the fuck they feel like it. So like, whether they do that or not is entirely up to them.
Well, I think you should put the option out there, or like,
they're gonna know the options there.
Okay.
They're gonna like. It's not like I'm not gonna obfuscate that.
No. But I'm saying like, I'm saying as a DM, just slam it in front of the players. Just be like, hey, a bunch of us NPCs are having one last like goodbye thing, or having a like, hey, we're all drinking, we want to thank you guys for everything you've done before you go, something.
Yeah, I am.
Like it could be again, it's an idea to break up, like you're saying, maybe some of the, the interest of dying has died down,
Well, again, though, it's going to be up to them whether they do anything with that or not. Like, I'm not controlling that in any way. They want to hang out or talk to somebody or not, I'm going to leave it open to do whatever, because, they're going to be in a situation where, because they're in a situation where they're so far away from home and everything, so, like, the people that they can talk to are going to be a select, the select people who are within their vicinity, but if they want to spend the last day doing nothing or whatever, they can. If they want to spend it, like, I'm just gonna say, okay, once you pass through the portal, that's it. We're in the final mission of the game. So do whatever you want now. Like, I was already gonna do that. That wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have like a specific event planned or anything like that. I'm just gonna sort of leave it up to them, because they know enough at this point. They can decide what they want to do. It's kind of, yeah. I mean, they're not. I'm not gonna force them to do anything.
No, I'm not saying force them to role play. Like, oh, you have to talk to the barmaid who fucking came up the mountain with you guys.
I'm not going to force them into the, like, I'm not going to force them into the portal. Like, once the project's complete, I'm going to give them time to figure it out.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's me. Okay.
Yeah. Because you were making it sound like, you were saying it as if my plan was just project's complete and then they're forced to the next step. But
that's kind of how you were, that's kind of how it came off. At first, that's why I was like,
oh no, I mean, I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying,
okay.
I'm just saying that they're so close to the end that we're in a position that once they step through, like, that's it.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Once they climb the nasty tentacle elevator or whatever it was at the end of Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, it's but also, again, I like, I feel like we're focusing too much on my game right now, which is sort of...
God, Josh, just run a better game. Jeez. No, okay.
Well, it's just because my game... the only reason I say this is because my game is sort of, like, past the point of no return. Like, it's not... There's not much else I'm going to add or change or do at this point. Like, I'm going to wrap up, and that's going to be, that's going to be kind of it, because I don't necessarily want to rock the boat a whole bunch, like... Obviously, there's gonna be the big final events and stuff, and that'll be cool. But like, it's not like, I'm not trying to fix anything in my game right now. Like, I feel like you're trying to fix something. I'm not trying to fix anything.
Okay, well, no, because you brought up your game, so I was kind of, that's why also I'm like, lost interest, excitement. I'm like, oh, okay, I mean, if anything, I could bring up my game, because not that I feel like interest has waned. But like, for me, because my campaign is Magic School Slice of Life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult at times to be like,
Well, yeah. No, so I mean,
because it's like, I could start off with combat, but it's like, how? It's like, all right, you're in the middle of botany class, and one of the plants turned into a shambling mound. Oh, like, all right, fucking.
Yeah. Well, so I think like, the best way with your particular game, where they're not going on any kind of like adventure to a specific place, and they're in kind of a locked, not locked, but they're in sort of a specific area. That's where you start doing things. You start doing things Persona style, which is where you really focus on the change, the change and the speed at which things happen. So, like, this is kind of what I was talking about, where the quickness can be on a shifting scale, right? Because the roleplay stuff you can do in truncated bites during a session, and then extend out the repercussions or events or whatever via time skip and stuff like that, right? Like you can character does X, Y, and Z thing, player talks to NPC, XYZ thing happens, time skip 1 week later, different thing happens because of that. You know, you could do a lot of that kind of thing. And in terms of the funny thing is that school in real life is often quite boring because it doesn't change very much. You go to school and you do the thing and you have the same classes and then you do your homework and then you go home. You know, but what you can do, I think, to keep that volatility and that changing going on with your particular scenario, I think it's got to be a lot of like school events, like weird stuff. I don't know if you have like an overarching
kind of
narrative in mind, but like wacky woohoo events, I feel like is how I would do that probably.
Well, we do that. Well, now it's more so. So basically, I break the game up into a couple like downtime chunks. So like in between, like the players will get like a set amount of downtime. In between those, that's when the campaign story stuff happens. Like I don't know, professor tells them to go to a swamp and collect a bunch of the pet mascots because they got loose, or another professor NPC is asking them to go find the book in the magical library or whatever. So but in between that, that's when they're going for like, you know, they're doing their own downtime shit. And shit, you weren't here when I mentioned I made the whole like basically adding dungeon crawly shit to the campaign, where like during downtimes players can go. There's an area of the Strixhaven campaign that is basically a giant crevice. Yeah. Yeah. And then they can go dungeon delving and all that shit there. And, you know, so I've been throwing in some dungeons because that was one of the things they wanted to do.
Right.
So that's been helping. And then after said dungeon, I do like a week catch up where I'm like, okay, guys, we're going through our week of school where each player's, because not all my players are in the same classes. So like we'll do the one silver quill class, and then we'll do all the clubs, and then, you know, the next day. So we're only really doing, and the players seem to like, again, one of the things I got in the feedback surveys was the players really like, you know, doing the class stuff, the catch-ups. I'm like, okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
But doing that can like, because I think I originally, when I was going to run this, I was like, what if, you know, I'll just do this every week. And then after the second week, I was like, no, I need to separate this shit. Like, holy crap.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. Yeah. The downtime and the class stuff for your game, that's a great example of the potential for things to get monotonous and boring, because you could very easily fall down a rabbit hole of, all right, we're going to school. Check. All right, cool. We'll go another day. All right, make me more checks. And it's just like the players rolling a lot of checks and doing a lot of like, you know, rolling dice, seeing numbers, seeing how class go, right? Like you could definitely end up in a situation of doing that a lot. And that's where we could, my point about keeping things quick. If you do something like that where the players have to make a whole bunch of checks or whatever to see how they do in class, yada yada, or how the week goes, you want to try and keep that as fast as you can if it's going to be something that's sort of not super interesting but somewhat necessary. That's where you make sure you go, okay, well, if I make this really quick, then we just, you know, we do it really fast and then we get over it. Basically,
and that's what I try to do. Like, again, one of the fucking nice things about the people, the Strixhaven community.
Hold on, did you play Persona?
No, I've never played Persona.
Okay. Well,
but like, wait, let me just finish the thing. So, on the DM's Guild, there is, I can't tell you how much money I've spent for this fucking campaign to fix it.
I mean,
and one of the things someone has done is they made a whole like schedule thing, and actually has like events and shit that happens in classes. So, and that's basically what, when I do the weekly catch up, I do these like mini events where it's like during your quantum physics and quandrix class, a student accidentally sets off a chain reaction, explosion or whatever, everyone, and then it asks you to make, it's usually like one or two like rolls.
Right. And then now you're in the realm of the volatile, right? Where things are changing very suddenly. Like, oh, normally I just go to class, and now all this sort of wacky shit's happening. So you're in the right ballpark. But
I'm at least trying to add in like, there's the volatile thing there, but there's also like interaction and role playing. Because it always starts off in class. The players are either learning something, they're talking to other NPCs, or they're talking to professors. And then, the professor will be like, all right, everybody, so this student has caught a case of the gibbering mouthers. What do? How do solve? There's no textbooks. And so, like, the players are like, oh, shit, make an intelligence save to remember what the fuck you learned in class. It's like, oh.
Right, and you're not, and part of you're also keeping things changing because you're never presumably using the same events.
No, not the same events, and again, because Strixhaven, it's 5 different colleges. Right. Each one specializes in a different thing. So, like, some students right now, one of the classes they're in is making magic items and learning about magic item history. Another one is basically Harry Potter dueling, but with words. Another one is quantum physics, but with magic. Crazy shit.
The reason I brought up Persona is just because I was gonna say there are days that will go by when you're playing Persona that nothing really happens, like none of your social links, which is to say your friends that you hang out with, basically. None of your social links are available. No real big event is going on, and usually on those days, what you end up doing is just doing something to raise one of your stats, one of your social stats, not your combat stuff.
Oh, okay.
So you'll, like, for example, you'll go to the batting cages for the day, and that just is a little, like, there's a little cutscene, your character's shown doing the batting cages, and then it raises one of your social stats. Those days of Persona always go by really, really snappy, and the game doesn't focus on them or anything, because the game's aware that, like, that shit, if you spend too much time, could get really dumb and monotonous,
Yeah.
And the thing that's really fun about Persona 2, and this is particularly a perfect fit for your game, but does apply to other games, is that Persona has struck this really beautiful balance, because Persona is 2 games in one game, right? Because Persona is a dating sim and an RPG. And one of the reasons that people find Persona really, really addicting, and you'll hear people say this sometimes, is that the game bounces between the 2 different games, like, it's such perfect
very
timing.
Well.
Yeah, like, it's always, as soon as you're getting bored with the dating sim, it's like, all right, it's dungeon time, and then as soon as you're over the dungeon, the game goes, all right, back to dating, and you're like, it's kind of amazing how well it manages to hit that balance of, like, keeping that change, that back and forth, that flip it up, like, oh, now we're doing this, now we're doing this, now we're doing this, now we're doing this. And that's, like, kind of what I'm talking about, where no matter how cool or epic your, like, events in your game are, if the vibe stays the same and the tone stays the same, and it's like, all right, we're traveling from point A to point B to go kill the, like, demon lord guy or whatever. And if all of that traveling just entails, like, we do some traveling, then we run into a dungeon, then we do some traveling, then we run into a dungeon, then we do some traveling, and if that's all it is, like, you're just doing that over and over again, that's where, no matter, even if your dungeons are amazing, the boringness sets in, because you're like, what a surprise, we ran into another dungeon.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I'm talking, that's where I keep using the word volatile, because volatile is the unexpected, like, oh, okay, that's not where I thought this was, like, I wasn't ready for that. Yeah. And that's kind of already what that's sort of what you're doing with the classes, where it's like, all right, you're going to class and slot attacks, and you're like, hey, excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny though that you haven't played the Persona games, because
I should
there's such a good lesson.
Yeah. I should watch a playthrough or something of it, just so I can, like, I don't know, take some inspiration or steal something from it, because, like, I think one of my other players also mentioned the Persona games of, like, oh, we should probably be doing, like, Persona stuff with our game, and I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of doing it, but, like, not exactly. I don't want to say correct, but like kind of like.
It sounds like you're doing it without necessarily being 100% aware of how, like, what the system is. But it sounds like you're basically doing it.
Yeah. I think it's also, so the big thing too with this year, because the players, they're, like the first year, because the campaign breaks up into 4 years because of fucking college. The first year was kind of like had an overarching story. This year has, I think one of the big things for me, the second year, there hasn't been a major overarching story. And that's both something that the campaign book, like the one that Wizards of the Coast barely wrote for, did. And for me, I'm adding things here and there, but I'm mostly trying to focus in on the big thing is the not Quidditch game. And in the original book, you only did it once, and it was at the end of the year, and that's it.
Right.
I decided to turn into a fucking anime tournament arc.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's the major kind of overarching story is, but it's, you know, the Mage Tower, not Quidditch. It has nothing to do with the not Death Eater guys. It has nothing to do with their grades. It's sports ball. Let's go. Yeah. Like, we're the best sports ball team.
I mean, I don't know if you necessarily even have to have 100% overarching. Like, I don't know. Like, because your game is in such an odd position that you might not need to, as long as you have interesting little arcs.
That's basically what this second year has been mostly with my campaign. And it's actually taken way longer than I thought. Yeah,
like at least for me, I would be okay if it was like there isn't an overarching story other than trying to pass school and like stuff just happens while we're at school. Like, I don't know. I would be all right with that because I see when talking about keeping interest, I feel like that as long as there's little arcs of stuff happening along the way, I feel like I would be interested. I would always be interested because I have no way to know how things are going to end or where they're going to go because there isn't a focused story, right? So I'm like, one year we did this thing at school and the next year we did that thing at school. Like, I would be okay with that personally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and it's also helped that I gave my players, you know, a deck of many things, and that has extremely spiced up the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, you're treading into the danger zone a little bit there.
Again, they drew 10 fucking cards. Half the deck is gone.
That is
and they
kind of hilarious.
They pulled majority of the good fucking cards. And it's like, I don't understand how.
Because they got lucky? I don't know. Couldn't tell you,
100% got lucky.
Couldn't tell you. I don't really know.
Yeah. But, yeah, now Slice of Life D&D is
it's weird.
It's weird. It's doable, but it is weird.
It's doable, but it's very strange, and you have to make a lot of concessions about certain things.
Yeah.
Which, I think the biggest thing in most games.
I think the biggest thing is, and I've mentioned to my players this, and like right off the bat, I'm like, hey, the role, like Strixhaven is going to be way into the role play stuff. Like, they literally have a relationship system in here and everything. So it's been one of the biggest things is in a role playing game that is about killing monsters. This campaign doesn't have a lot of killing monsters, so I've had to add shit constantly.
Yeah, you know, but like again,
and so that's the biggest. Yeah, that's been like the biggest. Like, not that I want combat like every single minute or every single session, but like,
right,
the players have powers that mostly deal with fucking combat. So
right, but I said this right when you were about to start this campaign. I was like, your players, the players you have, I don't know if they're going to be able to, deal with how little combat there's going to potentially be. Like, you really gotta, I think if you're going to play a game, like if you're going to play in a campaign a la the style you're doing, where we're playing the Persona game, like, minus the JRPG part, it's like, you have to make that concession that it's not gonna be like the usual fare of D&D fighting. Like, it's just
no. Well, again, not only really like once or twice have my players been like, man, there's no combat, and most of them have been now. Well, they stopped complaining after they've recently just got a shit ton of money. But it was the same thing where it's like, yeah, Matt, we don't have a lot of money, and then it's like, well, yeah, you guys are in fucking magic school.
Well,
like,
it's also like, what do you need money for?
They want to buy, adamantine plate armor. And
right, but why when you're not fighting that often anyway?
Because D&D, that's the thing.
That's what I mean. Like, you have to you have to just let those things go if that's the kind of game you're playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's that. I would just be like, all right, well, we don't have a lot of money or magic items, but like, we don't need them, so who cares? Like, that's what I would be thinking.
Yeah, well, even though, and my players have been doing very well with the roleplay stuff and been okay with that, but there is like, it's all players. Like, even if I was a player in the game, I would, like, if I was playing a paladin in Strixhaven, I'd be trying to gun for some +1 armor or some shit at some point, like, because it, number go bigger. Like,
I guess I don't know.
It's a side of my character becoming more powerful,
But
like,
your character becoming more powerful doesn't matter in school.
It shouldn't, but like, it's also a game, so I also want my number to go bigger.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know, Matt. You should
I get. Yeah.
You should play some Monster Hearts, Matt.
Maybe. I know. Isaiah also mentioned that too.
I know. Well, because it's literally this, but gayer. But very gay. Shit. What? Damn it.
Oh, I guess also because about the excitement and shit. Like again, I did several fucking episodes on my three-year game. Yes. How much nonsense did you hear that I threw in?
No, you're good about the keeping things ever changing for sure, and just like suddenly this and now this. Yeah, you in particular definitely do that a lot. That's probably, in terms of the things that I think I probably like, in terms of those three, quick, volatile, and ever changing, I probably don't do the changing things up enough. That's probably where I tend to fuck up, because I tend to get focused on a specific idea, and that just tends to be the vibe. Yeah. And it's hard. Sometimes I sort of just generally forget. And sometimes I can nail that. The funny thing about the quick part, right? Because, quick, so like, teasing out the quick, right? Because some people might be like, oh, so you're saying you should never spend any time on anything? And it's like, no, but you have to, the speed at which things occur, you really have to consider relative to what the event or the thing is. So a big important boss fight, taking an entire session is fine because it's a big important boss fight, right? But a boss fight taking 3 sessions is too long, right? So quick in that regard is 1 session, like 1 whole session. Whereas dealing with the local town bandit, or like dealing with like some ruckus in town of some sort of political dispute or something, that's only a couple of minutes or whatever. And then, that's quick and you move it. It's like giving things the time they need, but not overstaying their welcome is really what it's about. And then like, what's quick for an entire campaign, right? It's like, well, for me, a D&D campaign that's 30 sessions, I would say, is pretty quick. 30 to 40 sessions is pretty quick. But for some tabletop games, that would actually be quite long. So it's like understanding that pace out. Even though I know it, I still sometimes miss the target on it, because I think that one in particular, because we've been talking a lot about keeping things changing up, right? Constantly, like, do this, then that, and then this, and then, keeping it new and fresh and having that sense of novelty, right? We've been talking about that a lot. And I think that's not that hard. As long as you kind of are conscious of it, it's not too hard.
Yeah.
But pacing things out at the right speed, much harder.
Yeah, like even though like I would confidently say I'm pretty good at pacing, like timing in general, but like even I like the 3-year fucking game.
Yeah.
I did not want it to go the 3.5 years, and I overestimated so much shit on timing. The Drow arc was not supposed to take 6 months of actual fucking time. It just happened that way. And with this campaign, I'm really trying to, and I think I'm seeing it now in my head. I'm like, this campaign is gonna go over my 2-year mark. I think it's gonna go, and that's where I'm now just thinking about it, because I'm like, you know, between like the roleplay stuff, players, you know, doing whatever, the dungeons, I'm like, shit takes up time. Like these games, they take up time. And I'm like, I think even with cutting Mad Mage, I'm like, maybe it won't be like 3 years, but like maybe
2.5.
Maybe 2.5. If I can try to get it less, I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I also, because this is another thing for interest and excitement, and like you said, what's the most like hype part of a game? It's the first few sessions, because new characters, possibilities, all that shit.
I mean,
so characters being the same thing for over
right. That's
year,
the thing. Characters
I generally feel bad.
Yeah, characters don't change that much unless you push that into the narrative and stuff. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. That's why people tend to get bored. That's why players will get bored of their PC. I know that's why I get bored of my PC. It's like, all right, well, he's been the same thing for a while. Like, there's nothing new here.
And that's why I'm glad I caught Mad Mage, because one of the other things I was reading when we were going to talk about this is one big thing a lot of GMs don't do, and that they should, is have their players level up regularly. Now, regularly can mean something different for me, but like, not like if the players only like
this is where the definition of the word quick becomes malleable. Yeah,
like I can go back from like the first, because originally with the first, like again, campaigns broke them to 4 years. The players were only, the max level for Strixhaven was level 10, so they were spending the first year from level 1 to 4. Then the second year at level 5 to 6. Now they're about to hit level 8 in the second year, because I sped shit up, and now they're getting more power. They're power, like they're level 7, and a lot of the characters at level 7 are getting cool powers. Like 2 of my players are fighters. Fighters get a lot of good shit at level 7. So, and they've been level 7 for a little bit now, and they're soon to hit level 8. So I'm like, speeding up the leveling up, I think, has helped keep their interest, at least I feel.
Well, yeah, because
I could be wrong,
it gives you new stuff on your character sheet. It's a change, you know, it's an ever-changing. Yeah, I also, I do want to point out, though, just for the sake of addressing it real quick. You cannot, and when I say you, I mean everyone on the planet, cannot capture the hype. That hype of the new campaign, that first session, you cannot get that excitement ever again until you start another campaign. So don't try to be like, I'm chasing that dragon. Don't chase that dragon. You can't do it. It's impossible. It's okay. Let it go. That's just how it is. It's the same thing as the hype when you first start playing a new video game. You'll never be as excited as when you first start playing the game. Like, it's just how it goes. Don't feel bad if you like can't reach that pinnacle or whatever. Sorry, I had to throw that one out there because I don't know why not. Why not? I don't know.
Have you, like, that's like kind of off topic, but have you been reading up on a lot of people like talking about the new Critical Role season and all that stuff? Like one of the big things that people, well, so apparently the numbers for the new season of Critical Role haven't been doing well recently. They've actually been going down.
Yeah, because Critical Role's been around for a while.
Yeah, Critical Role has been around for a while. One of the things that people are just kind of like, you know, it's tail ending. Maybe if they get a new campaign going, it'll revive things again. Like, well, it's kind of like one of the talks right now, because people are like, well, and also, right, I'm over campaign 3. Let's just get to campaign 4 already with Daggerheart and let's go.
Right. Well, that's the other thing, right? They've also been playing. They've played 5e for every single one of their campaigns, and you know, maybe people are getting a little sick of it. I think when they eventually bust out Daggerheart, they're gonna have a big boom. I think that's going to be. I might even watch when they do a Daggerheart campaign, TBH.
Yeah, just to see. I mean, hell, I'll probably buy
I want
it
to know
if they
the
sell.
game.
If they sell PDFs, I'll buy the PDF just to look at it. And like, again, I can steal from it, or maybe I'll swap over to it. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that if they do eventually do, like, I mean, they're going to. I hope when they do a Daggerheart campaign that it's not an extension. I don't want campaign 4. I want campaign Daggerheart 1. Like fresh reboot. Like don't get us out of Exandria, do a new thing. I hope.
I don't know, because
I don't know, but I think they should.
From what I've watched and read, it seems like the ending of campaign 3 is going to be a soft reboot of the world, where it's going to be their own, Matt's own gods and his new landscape and Taldore and Exandria, but Daggerheart version.
Yeah, I kind of hope it's not that. I want it to be a totally new thing, personally. Yeah. Like, especially because especially because I assume Daggerheart's probably going to have a setting, so like use whatever setting Daggerheart is or has. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be whatever there's. I don't know what the planet's called for CR, but I think it's just going to be that world.
I don't know, because Exandria exists in 5e now, so I think they might have to do their own thing,
Well, they don't own. That's the weird thing. They don't own Exandria. CR still does, but they own. So it is actually the fucking weird shit. Because of the deal they made with Wizards of the Coast for campaign 2, where they were like basically all of campaign 2 was sponsored by Wizards of the Coast,
right?
And D&D Beyond, and because they even made the Wildmount book for D&D, produced by Wizards. I think when it comes to the Wildmount stuff, Wizards might have a say in that, and like the whole. Archon in Descent to Avernus being from Exandria, that could have been just an Easter egg. But like Exandria technically is a part of now the D&D multiverse, whatever the fuck you want to call it, cosmology, the Great Wheel, but it's not like entirely their own property. Like this one continent might be, but like not the planet. So if like.
Right, which
we'll
is why
see
I
in
think
campaign 3 if the fucking continent gets nuked, and then it's like, oh look, it's still Taldore because that's the one we own.
right. Well, that's kind of what I'm saying is like I think that's why, because of the 5e ties, I'm hoping they'll do a fresh thing with Daggerheart.
Yeah,
but maybe not. I mean, they did with Candela Obscura, so it's not totally.
I haven't watched. I can't watch live plays anymore. So I'm like,
Candela Obscura. Well, it was only like a 1 shot anyway, but 2 shots.
I thought it was a whole
it was short.
No,
it was short. But like Candela Obscura is its own like weird modern, it's not modern. It's it might be the 20s it takes place. It's like a Cthulhuian kind of on Earth type situation. So like obviously it's not in D&D land. So like. Yeah. They've done it a little bit already.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that, because if it's a totally fresh thing where I don't need to have seen Critical Role campaign 1 through 3, then I could just jump into the new Daggerheart campaign. I mean, I probably will either way and just say fuck it and not care, but like, it makes things a little easier. That's really all I'm getting at. But we'll see. But yeah, I think part of the reason, look, Critical Role's numbers are dropping off because they've been around a while. They're many episodes deep in campaign 3. They've been playing nothing but D&D, so things stale out, the numbers go down. That's how it goes. It's the same as any fucking YouTube playthrough of a game, right? First episode's really hype, and then the subsequent episodes go down in views. That's just how that shit goes. Like. It's not like a fucking. We don't need to put our tinfoil hat, because I'm sure there's motherfuckers out there like tinfoil hat time, baby. Critical Role fell off. No, they didn't fucking fall off. Relax. Like, no. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hate when people do that. Drives me insane. Oh, maybe they're doing a Candela Obscura. Or is that a different?
See, I thought it was like a mini campaign show.
It started with it. The first one was only like a couple episodes, but now they might be doing a longer campaign. I'm actually not entirely sure. Slightly confused because now I'm looking at their YouTube real quick, and there's 3 episodes of one thing with Candela Obscura, but then there's an episode 1 of what looks like a new campaign, but I don't know how long that's gonna run. I don't know. Anyway.
Anyways.
This has been your Critical Role check-in.
Yeah. Also, just for fun, excitement shit, also stealing from the Mad Mercer effect, just blow up their city. Add explosions.
Yes.
Just blow up their home with dragons, or I don't know what happened.
I would say,
I'm trying to think what blew up in campaign 2 besides Mollymock.
Wow, spoilers, Matt.
It's 3 years old. Fuck you. Actually, shit, I don't even know. It actually is older.
Yes,
probably.
I would say blowing up their city with dragons qualifies as volatile and change.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that. That counts.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. I have anywhere else to particularly go with this because I didn't really have that much of a plan in the first place. So,
I will.
Anything else?
Actually also add in one thing I do too during games because player engagement and all that, just to keep things exciting. Like for like, I know you. I don't know. I'll ask you if this is like a taking a piss, the roll to take a piss thing. Like if it's like a knowledge check or something, like sometimes I'll ask players to like roll, like even if it's something like that the characters might know, but they're not sure of. I'll have them roll because again, everyone likes rolling dice. Yes, I play on a virtual tabletop, so it's clicking a button. But even that much of an engagement,
I mean, yeah, it's still a dopamine hit.
Sparks something.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, okay. Even if I lower the DC to like 10 or whatever.
Oh, are you
like,
asking is that a shitty way to like keep engagement?
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it's not like
there's no like it's mostly for like knowledge things. It's not like the fate of the school revolves around me making this one investigation.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's just little bits of extra information or whatever, like a little extra tidbit, it's not too big a deal, If it's like vitally important information and you decide to tuck it behind a kind of pointless role, even though their characters would probably know the information anyway, then yeah, that's like shitty. But if it's just like a little once in a while, it'll be like, I don't know, let's see. That's fine. It also depends on how much you do it too, right? We're talking about monotony, and it's like, hey, if you do ask for a check of that nature over and over and over and over and over and over again, it's going to get real boring and monotonous.
Yeah,
so,
there was, I'll say for like the magic school, one of the things that they do is these tests, and on these tests, the students are asked to like, they're basically like mini skill challenge things.
Right.
And for some reason, one of the last like few tests kept fucking asking him to roll investigation check. And this was something from the book that I probably should have changed. But I'm like, I want to follow the book for this stuff. And all my players were like, oh, God, investigation again. Jesus. And then the one player with an investigation proficiency was like, I don't know what you guys complain about. This is great. I like this.
Yeah, that is that kind of goes back to what I was talking about towards the beginning, where I was like, if you want to challenge players, you have to make them engage with the mechanics over and over and over again. But if you do it too much without anything changing or shifting, then yeah, it gets annoying, right? Like it's that whole problem, and people say this about D&D a lot, and this is one of the reasons people often call D&D boring, is that in D&D, you'll make a whole bunch of checks and nothing changes whether you pass or fail, right? Like, make an investigation check. Okay, I made the investigation check. All right, you failed. You don't get any information. Nothing changes, right? Nothing happens. A lot of people complain about that. And the reason is because nothing changes. So we're still in this same boring position that we were before. Whereas if you're playing, Dungeon World and you make it's not a check in that game, but you make a roll to discern realities to try and scan the room, and then you fail, your GM goes, as you go to examine the door, you're so focused on what you were looking at that you didn't notice there was a creature hiding right above the door. Whatever that creature is leaps down from above and like tackles you to the ground and is now trying to bite your face. What do you do? Right? Something has now changed. Like, shit, I was doing this, now we're doing this. So that's that, making checks over and over and over again, making a bazillion investigation checks. That's kind of why it's annoying, because it's like, all right, if I pass, I get a little tick on the yes box, and if I fail, I get a little tick on the no box, but like nothing's really changing. But at the same time, the game kind of demands you do this to challenge the players. So it's like, how do I... And then that's where you come into that. That's where the balancing, that's where taking the quick part of things and trying to balance it out gets tricky, and you have to sort of feel it out, like how many checks in a row is too many. Is this getting annoying? If you're breaking up the time between checks with other stuff, then you can get away with more checks. But if you're not, then your players are going to get more annoyed faster because there's less checks, because things aren't changing at all. And official books, you're right, that official books do sometimes ask you to just do too goddamn many over and over and over again. And that's also why if you actually read the skill challenge section in 4E, I've sort of skimmed through it a few times. It actually says in the skill challenge section, when you're doing a skill challenge, not to just do a bunch of checks over and over and over again and have nothing happen. What it says is you're supposed to treat it essentially like Dungeon World, where you make a check, and then if the players fail, the situation changes, gets more complicated or whatever. And if you succeed, the players make progress. So like the example I think of the 4E game is like rescuing a person who's drowning or something like that. And it's like, if they fail, they miss the boat, they fall a little deeper. If you succeed, you pull them towards the boat you're in or whatever. It actually does say that in the skill challenge section. And I think one of the reasons people got annoyed with skill challenges because D&D doesn't do that normally. They didn't know to do that, so people thought skill challenges were just rolling a whole bunch of times in a row and then seeing what happens. That's not really what they were supposed to be.
No, most people should watch, besides the Matt Colville video on it, the first episode of the Chain of Acheron for the MCDM game.
Yes.
Because afterwards he talks about it, and I actually have the notes that he gave for people to take, because he had he went through the list of every single skill proficiency that the players had, which they basically had every single one. And then he wrote a scenario about what that skill, what the challenge was, what the DC was, so that the player can engage with it. And then if they failed the check, then whatever player was doing the next check, that check became harder. If the player succeeded, it would become easier. And so he went down the whole list and gave basic answers and results. And that's kind of what I did for my campaign when I did the whole Calarel castle crumbling down, because I copied that from what Matt did.
Right, yeah.
And he gave us different situation. I went down the list of every fucking skill, and I wrote down the situation of all the castles crumbling. You have to get out. What do you do? Skill challenge. The
one thing with that is, yes, having the numbers shift up and down from players succeeding or failing is fine. The one thing you do want to also keep in mind, though, is you also want to make sure that fictionally things are shifting and moving around and making sense.
Well, that's when you describe shit, you say what's happening. Make sure
it needs flowing. It needs to flow fictionally too, because A, it's more interesting, and B, it will help players make sense of the situation. We're trying to escape. All right, the room we're in, the ceiling is crumbling. The barbarian's like, the door that's near us is locked. I'm gonna just punch it as hard as I fucking can and break the door open. Okay, cool. Barbarian, you run, you punch. The door is sturdier than you thought. You see as the door starts to cave, but it doesn't open, and then the walls around the door start to crumble and crack. Now the ceiling is falling faster than it was before. The situation has gotten harder, shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because yes, that first session of the Chain of Akron was essentially long, extended skill challenge. And it was interesting, if you will. Anything else before jumping off into the night? In the woods?
Not that I could think of.
Wow.
Yeah, mix it up. Do a bunch of different shit.
Quick, volatile, and ever-changing. I ain't even gonna lie. I mostly just made a mantra to repeat to myself. That was one of the main reasons I did it. Well, this was a bit of chaotic nonsense. I didn't really have a solid plan here, so here we are. But follow us on Twitter if you liked it.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I don't know. Eat your fucking veggies.
Yeah.
Enjoy broccoli.
Say your prayers. Eat your fuck.
I don't know about the prayers one.
No. Oh, this the Hulk Hogan thing?
Oh.
Yeah. Eat your
vitamins.
Say your prayers.
Fucking
I forgot what the last. Suplex somebody. I don't know.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Power slam someone.
Was.
Break a man's neck.
Shit.
Okay, well, bye.
Have a good one.